Hello! It's been a while since my last video, so I would like to take this opportunity today to show you a little bit of a library and CLI tool, command line application called Drift. It is actually extraction from a project I've been working on for the past year, and the purpose of it is to offer you the CLI, the utility to be able to execute that on the command line, but also as a crystal library, a shard to allow you to integrate that into your projects. And this is a standalone SQL-based migration tool. You can find that directly on GitHub. That explains more deep how it works and what is the processes and all the activities that it performs when used as a CLI, and also provides you instructions when you wanted to use it as a library, how you will integrate it, how you will use it. Okay. What I'm going to be showing today is three parts. The first one's showing the CLI, how you operate, how you use it when you wanted to use it in the command line, but also how you integrate with the project, and then making sure that that tool can be executed in other platforms, right? Talking about like how we can make my project compile and have the migrations and everything necessary, and also how we can make the CLI cross-platform, etc. Okay, so to get started on this, I have three different environments. I have a Linux container running on ARM64, Arch64, macOS running ARM64, which is a silicon chip, Apple Silicon, and also I have a Ryzen PC running Linux AMD64 bits, right? So I have these three different platforms, and what I'm going to be doing, shards build Drift. It's going to build the CLI, and this is going to be available for me to be executed there, right? Now, when I'm using Drift, I will create a new migration. So I will create a new migration called create users, right? And that will create a file in the database migrations directory. That directory will automatically have all my migrations there, and we can go and take a look to it here. Create users, right? Which in this case is empty. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be copying something here, which is just to create a table and the two sections. The first one, which is this special comments on the SQL file, indicates that this is the direction of migration. This is like the migration operation, where you can introduce all the SQL statements that you wanted to perform during that operation. And then in the rollback, the opposites, where you want to undo from the operations, right? So I'm going to, for this migration, which is create users, I'm going to create the users, and I'm going to, on the rollback operation, I'm going to remove or drop that table called users, right? So I'm saving that file, and I'm on the command line. If I execute drift migrate, I will need to give a path, I will need to give the database that's going to be executed, that's going to be used for this migration, right? I could be saying status, and it says no migration table found. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be migrating that. And now it migrated that, and if I check status again, it says that migration was run, it's part of the batch 1, it was applied at a certain time, and it took around X microseconds, milliseconds, etc. It depends. But the problem is, like, I need to go and define and give that path to the database every single time. Well, there is an option that you can just export the DB URL variable and give that to DB. So when you do the status, you don't give status, and you just press enter, and you get the taking that from the environment, so you don't need to give that every single time. Now I run that migration got applied. I can see it there. I'm going to go and create a second migration. So this new migration, I will call it create customers, just to mention it. And then I'm going to create customers I have here, which is empty. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy what I had it before and rename it here. I'm just going to call it customers. Okay. And then I'm going to check a status. And on the status, I see that that new migration that I just created hasn't been run. So it's not part of a batch, hasn't been applied, doesn't have any information. I'm going to migrate. So that migrated and apply that migration. I'm going to confirm the status now. And I can see on the status that the first migration was part of the batch 1. The second migration that I apply is part of the batch 2. So this is something that Drift does. So if you have multiple migrations and those need to be applied at once, those are going to be part of the same batch. And when you decided to rollback is going to roll back a batch. It's not going to roll back all the migrations. It's not just going to roll back the latest one. It's going to roll back the batch. If I do a status, I will see that that migration got removed. And if I do reset, which is going to undo all the migrations, I will have that hasn't been run. If I do a migrate again, all those migrations will be applied and they are going to be now part of the same batch. So all good with that. And I can confirm that that's okay. Outside of the container, I'm going to open that database. I'm going to check the schema and I have the Drift migration, the users and the customers table there. Now that's perfect. That depends on those SQL files that were created in that default directory, which is database migrations, right? And Drift is going to use those files in order to perform those migrations. So you will use the CLI when you're like working locally, but that defeats the purpose when you're bundling that part of your application. So for that purpose, when you're using that on your application, you have something part of Drift, which is a macro called embed as, that will allow you to define a method called, in this particular case, this is method is going to be called my migrations, and it's going to look up for migrations in the database migrations directory. Then it's going to open the database. This is the traditional stuff. You will do that part of your application any other point, and you will open load a migrator for that and then perform the apply, which is it's going to automatically apply any migration that is pending, that hasn't been applied to the schema, and then it's going to record that information and then continue your application. So perhaps you wanted to put this part of your bootstrap of your application or a special comment. It doesn't matter. In this particular case, I just did this demo. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to remove that database so it doesn't exist, and I'm going to do Crystal run that demo file. So what this is going to do is going to compile the demo, it's going to execute the executable, and actually is going to create that database. So if I do the Drift status, because it's using the same file, it's going to show that both migrations were applied, right? What I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to be doing a cross-compile of this, because it's perfect that I have it inside my container, but I would like this to be working directly natively on my Mac, right? On my macOS operating system, or I wanted to bundle that in the executable of my application. So I'm going to be running a series of other commands. I have it here. I'm going to be cross-building the CLI for Mac. So I have this command here. I'm going to execute this. It's going to compile for ARM64, Apple Darwin. That's the triplet of the platform according to LLVM. It's going to compile that, link it to the proper libraries, and it's going to finalize. And it's going to be on that particular directory. I'm going to check that, right? I'm going to check that file. Yeah, it's a macOS 64 bits ARM64 executable, and I'm going to use OTool to verify the dependencies, and it says that it depends on the system libraries of macOS. I'm going to execute that just to check it works, and I'm going to check the status of the migration using the DB app DB, and it runs. So I can validate the information that is on the database. I can actually delete that, run that. It says no migration table found, and I can do the migrate, did the migration. I can check the status, everything. It works exactly the same as was on Linux, on the container. Sorry. So what I'm going to do now, as I was mentioning, the idea is that if you have that part of your application, when you're using Drift as a library, you can bundle your migrations part of it. So it's going to embed the migrations within it. It's no longer going to need them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cross-compile the demo for Linux. What this is going to do is going to generate a standalone executable, uses musl as the C library, meaning that has no dependency, so it can run on Ubuntu, it can run on any type of distribution. And this executable, I'm going to be copying this executable into I'm going to be copying that executable into my remote machine. So I can I can check. I have demo. I don't have any database, right? And I'm going to be doing demo run. So that's a native executable for Linux. It run it. It has no dependencies. It's statically linked, and I did that, and also that automatically created the appdb. And if I check the context of the appdb with the schema on SQLite, I will see that it created the Drift migrations table necessary to keep track of the migrations that were applied, the users and the customers migrations. So that shows how you can embed it. I'm still working on the cross-compilation and making sure that I can build that CLI for other type of platforms, and it can run standalone and can be distributed without any type of issue. And right now the only limitation is SQLite as an adapter is using Crystal DB as the database functionality or structure, but it's only supported SQLite 3 because that's the target database that I've been using on the other project, so I didn't explore Postgres, MySQL, or any other type of database adapter. But that will be something for later. So I hope you like it, you enjoy it. If you're curious or you want to learn more, feel free to go to GitHub to that particular page. Have fun, take care.